This is Indian country, the image of the rural and open spaces. This is Indian country, the creeks, the rivers, the trees. This is Indian country, the celebration of our dances, our culture, and our communities. And this is Indian country, an architecture that doesn't reflect a tribe's sense of community, culture, or place. This is Indian country, Manhattan Island, the original lands of the Lenape Indians. This is Indian country, the home of the Piscataway, who are not a federally recognized tribe despite this being our nation's capital. This is Indian country, and this, the lands that you are all sitting on, the lands that we're standing on. This is Indian country, the lands of the Lenape, and many others. I'm Joseph, a citizen of the Northern Cheyenne Nation, and this is my friend and colleague, Nathaniel. We're working with tribal communities across what is now called the United States, building their capacity to have collective impact. We've been asked by my tribe to help design the Northern Cheyenne Healing Trail to acknowledge a massacre at a U.S. cavalry fort in Nebraska. As part of this collaboration, we're exploring what identity means in the built environment, understanding that we're all indigenous to this planet. It becomes more complex when a people imposes an identity on a population. In our context, it's the American Indian. Kill the savage, save the man. Here, this is not the case. My grandfather, Arthur Woodenthigh, welcomed a young white boy, Teddy, into his family, raising this child as his own without prejudice. This history happened here on my family's land, along the Tongue River, on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, in what is now southeastern Montana. This is my history. This too is my history, the non-native Euro-Western world. During my childhood, through my adolescence and higher education, I grew up disconnected from the reservation on the East Coast along the Jersey Shore. Growing up between these two worlds, the native and non-native, framed my identity for who I am today.
I wish I had photographs of my great-grandmothers. My mother's grandfather was an architect born in London. My father's father was a backcountry guide in the Oregon Territory. My wife and I find solace in the wilderness and meaningful work in social justice architecture. Joseph and I are helping to design a trail connecting Fort Robinson, the site of the Breakout 140 years ago, and this monument, recently built by tribal members. The Healing Trail stretches between two flags, the stars and stripes that fly over the fort and the flag of the Northern Cheyenne Nation flying over new tribal land. Serving a country that has systematically taken their lands, broken treaties, and oppressed their people, Native Americans still serve in the U.S. Armed Forces at higher rates than any other demographic.
So why? Why is this important? Why are we doing this work? Nathaniel and I established a nonprofit to address these historic injustices and inequalities we see in the built environment. This work elevates the voices and creates a platform for our indigenous communities that have called these lands home for thousands of years. These lands hold a range of historic battlefield and massacre sites, mostly unmarked. Prior to contact, 20 million indigenous called North America home. Today, there are 5.4 million Native Americans. This is a genocide. 0.5% of all philanthropy goes to Indian country, which in itself is an injustice. This is an invitation to you all to help change how we think about philanthropy in Indian country.
Our creative capital project, the Northern Cheyenne Healing Trail, is one of 10 projects in a portfolio focused on amplifying tribal sovereignty across North America. We're working with Native communities to envision and realize built environment goals from the Gulf Coast to the Southwest to Hawaii and here in New York. The process of healing around a trail in the Northern Plains is an opportunity to acknowledge the entwined and difficult histories embedded at the Fort Robinson site. It represents a massacre, but also the related potential for reconciliation. For America has not honorably memorialized the history of Indigenous people. There are 54 national memorials, 21 are dedicated to white men, only one to an African American. 2 are dedicated to Native American events, but there are no names or tribes mentioned. The Northern Cheyenne Healing Trail must be many things to many people: an accessible path, activating a former rail line, a tracing of a historic breakout, and an escape along a frozen river at night, a place to remember victims of a massacre. The Northern Cheyenne Nation in Montana, shown here in orange, the monument in Nebraska, shown as a small red dot. Tribal members run a relay each year carrying a tribal flag on a 400-mile run. The Healing Trail will become the final stretch. Together, on the anniversary of the massacre, we witnessed these runners break out of the fort again to begin their return home. We also walked the site with tribal elders and members of the non-native family who gifted the land.
Together, we're working towards a history that includes both native and non-native voices. This work, this project, is not about an object frozen in time memorializing the past. It's about revealing true histories, acknowledging the complexities, and moving forward based on truth. Question: what will enable us to do this work right? To provide spaces for healing, time, money, listening, being present, showing up and accompanying the community on this journey. Through this project, we're recognizing what actually happened here. Native voices and concepts will punctuate the trail through its physical features, acknowledging this country's indigenous populations and our relationship to the lands. Our work, this work, supports the next generation of tribal leaders. These young individuals will be the change that address Indian country's most pressing problems. Through our work, we're creating transformational change by building connections to health, education, art, architecture, community, and place. To support this work, we're establishing a fund. A fund anchored with support from Native philanthropy and seeded by creative capital will be the first of its kind. The first of its kind. So I ask you, I invite you, I challenge you to be part of this change as we raise $1 million to begin the process of closing the wealth gap in Indian country. This is an obligation for you all to be part of this future.
Thank you.
Thank you.